Hi, I'm Sarah. Today I'm going to read you the story of Helen, which is titled like this. I brought the tenants to show them my apartment for rental, but found my sister there with 3 kids. Oh, we live here, Mom gave us the keys. If you don't like it, call the police, she laughed. I dialed 911 and she started panicking. Well, let's go. My name is Helen, and I'm 31 years old. I work as a software developer for a large tech company in San Francisco. The pay is good, the work is interesting, and I've been doing it for almost 7 years now. I own a large apartment in the Soma area with a view of the bay. It's a beautiful place, expensive, modern, exactly the kind of apartment people dream about when they think of San Francisco. But honestly, I hated living there. The noise never stopped. Sirens, traffic, people yelling at all hours. I couldn't sleep properly. I couldn't think clearly. I just wanted quiet. My family lives in San Francisco too. My parents are still in the same house I grew up in, about 40 minutes from my apartment. My older sister Jennifer is 38, 7 years older than me. She's divorced and has 3 kids. I don't see them as often as I probably should, but we talk on the phone sometimes. After months of not sleeping well and feeling stressed all the time, I decided I needed a change. I contacted a realtor and told her what I wanted. Something quiet. A country house, away from the city. Somewhere I could actually hear myself think. It took a few weeks, but she found the perfect place. A small country house about an hour outside the city. It had high-speed internet, which meant I could work from home without any problems. The house wasn't huge, but it was cozy. It had a yard, trees, neighbors who weren't on top of each other. It was exactly what I needed. The problem was money. I could afford the mortgage, but it would be tight. That's when I had an idea. My apartment in San Francisco was valuable. People would pay a lot to rent a place like that. If I rented it out, the rent would cover the mortgage on the country house. I hired a management company I trusted to handle everything. I also had my lawyer draw up a solid rental agreement, one that would protect me and my property. Then I spent money on renovating the interiors, making everything look perfect for potential tenants. I installed a modern security system too, cameras and locks, the whole deal. I drove to my parents' house to visit them and tell them about my plans. My dad was sitting in his usual chair when I arrived. My mom was in the kitchen making tea. I sat down and told them about the country house, about my plan to rent out the apartment to cover the mortgage. That's smart, Helen, my dad said. I'm proud of you for thinking ahead like that. But you're going to rent to strangers? My mom asked. She looked worried. What if they damage the apartment? What if they're terrible tenants? That's why I hired a management company, I explained. They'll screen everyone thoroughly. And I have a lawyer-drafted lease that protects me. Before my mom could respond, the front door burst open. Jennifer came in with all 3 kids. They immediately started running around, yelling, touching everything. The living room went from quiet to chaos in about 5 seconds. Jennifer overheard the tail end of our conversation. Wait, you're renting out your apartment? The one in Soma? Yes, to help pay for the country house. She plopped down on the couch next to me. You should rent it to me and the kids. I blinked. What? Yeah, our apartment is way too small. 3 kids in 2 bedrooms is crazy. And your place is huge. Plus, it's in a great school district. The kids would get a much better education there. Jennifer, I'm renting it out to cover the mortgage. I need the rental income. Are you serious right now? Her face changed. The friendly smile disappeared. You're going to charge your own sister rent? Yes, that's how renting works. That's so greedy, Helen. You make way more money than I do. You can afford 2 properties. I'm struggling to raise 3 kids alone, and you can't even help me out? My mother jumped in immediately. Helen, Jennifer has a point. You should help your sister. She has 3 children to support. I'm not running a charity, I said, this is an investment. I need the rental income. You don't understand how hard it is, Jennifer said, her voice getting louder. You live in your fancy apartment with your fancy job, thinking about nothing but money. You have no idea what it's like to be a real family, to have real responsibilities. Jennifer, my answer is no. God wants those who have to share with those who don't, my mother said. You've been blessed with success. You should help your family. I stood up, this conversation is over. I'm renting the apartment to paying tenants. My decision is final. You're ungrateful, Jennifer yelled as I walked to the door. We're family, and you're treating us like we're nothing. You're greedy and heartless. I didn't respond, I just left. The whole drive back, I kept replaying that conversation in my head. Part of me felt guilty. Jennifer was struggling. The kids did need a better place to live. But the larger part of me knew I'd made the right decision. I'd worked hard for years to afford that apartment. I'd saved, budgeted, made smart choices. Jennifer wanted me to just hand it over for free, like my success was supposed to automatically become her solution. I moved to the country house the following week. It was strange at first, being away from the city. But the quiet was incredible. I could hear birds. I could see stars at night. I slept better than I had in years. A few days later, my phone rang. It was Michael from the management company. Helen, great news, I found the perfect tenants for your apartment. Really? That was fast. Yeah, they're a couple of engineers from Google. Excellent credit scores, stable employment, great references. They loved the apartment when I showed them the photos. They want to see it in person this Friday at 2 o'clock. That sounds perfect. Their names are Mr. and Mrs. Chin. Very professional, very respectful. I think you'll like them. Friday came, I drove to the city and met Michael in the lobby of the building. The Chen couple arrived right on time. Mr. Chen was wearing a nice suit and shook my hand firmly. Mrs. Chen was elegant, well-spoken, clearly intelligent. They were exactly the kind of tenants I'd hoped for. We took the elevator up to my floor. I unlocked the apartment door, pushed it open, and started to say, "Please, come in," and the words died in my throat. My apartment looked like a tornado had hit it. The designer walnut coffee table I'd spent $2,000 on was shoved against the wall. A cereal box and a milk carton sat on top of it. My gray velour sofa was covered with a cartoon blanket, and the floor was buried under plastic toys. Jennifer was sitting on my couch in sweatpants, eating chips, watching cartoons on my TV at full volume. Her youngest daughter, Emma, was drawing with crayons in one of my art books. An art book that had cost me $400. Michael and the Chen couple stood frozen behind me. Jennifer finally looked up. She didn't look embarrassed or guilty. Just slightly annoyed, like we'd interrupted her. "Mom gave me a spare key," she said casually. "We moved in yesterday. This is our home now." Mrs. Chen touched her husband's arm. "We should leave," she said quietly. "Wait, please," I started, but they were already moving toward the elevator. "I'm sorry," Mr. Chen said politely, and they disappeared down the hall. Michael looked at me, then at Jennifer, then back at me. "I'll call you later," he said, and followed the Chen couple out. The door closed. It was just me and Jennifer now. And her 3 kids, who were running around destroying my apartment. "Get out," I said. Jennifer laughed. "No, Mom said we could live here. This is family property." "This is my property, I own it." "You're trespassing." "Oh, come on, don't be dramatic. We're family, you're not actually going to do anything about it." She turned back to the TV, dismissing me completely. Like I was the one being unreasonable. "If you don't like it," she added without looking at me, "call the police." Something cold settled in my chest. Fine, she wanted me to call the police? I'd call the police. I pulled out my phone and dialed 911. Jennifer's smile disappeared instantly. She jumped up from the couch. Wait, what are you doing? The operator answered, 911, what's your emergency? I need to report an illegal entry into my apartment, I said clearly. Several people entered without my permission and are refusing to leave. The address is. Helen, stop, Jennifer grabbed for my phone, but I stepped back. I gave the operator my address, my apartment number, and confirmed I'd meet the officers in the lobby. The kids started crying. They could tell something was wrong. You can't do this, Jennifer said. Her voice was panicked now. I'm your sister. You told me to call the police, I said, so I did. This isn't a family matter anymore. It's a legal one. I walked out and took the elevator down to the lobby. My hands were shaking, but I felt strangely calm. 10 minutes later, 2 police officers walked through the door. One was older, with Martinez on his name tag. The other was younger, Thompson. I'm Helen Carter, I said, showing them my ID. I'm the owner of apartment 714. There are people inside who refuse to leave. I pulled up digital copies of my ownership documents on my phone. Officer Martinez looked them over and nodded. Let's go take a look, he said. We rode the elevator up in silence. When I opened the apartment door, Jennifer froze. Her face went white when she saw the officers. I'm Officer Martinez, he said. Ma'am, the owner of this property has asked you to leave. You need to gather your things and go. She's my sister, Jennifer said. This is a family issue. Family doesn't matter in property law, Officer Thompson said. The owner wants you to leave. That means you're trespassing. You're ruining my life, Jennifer screamed at me. She lunged forward, but Officer Thompson caught her arm. Ma'am, you need to calm down. Jennifer tried to yank her arm free. She was struggling, pulling, screaming at me about how I was destroying her family. Officer Martinez moved to help. Within seconds, they had Jennifer's arms behind her back and were putting handcuffs on her wrists. You're under arrest for trespassing and resisting an officer, Martinez said. The kids were sobbing now. All 3 of them crying and reaching for their mother. Jennifer was crying too, still yelling at me. My phone rang. It was my mom. I answered and put it on speaker. Hello? Helen, what have you done? My mother's voice was high-pitched, panicked. Jennifer just texted me that the police are there. I called the police, just like Jennifer told me to. This wouldn't have happened if you hadn't given her my spare key without asking me. How dare you? My mother screamed. She's your sister. Those are your nieces and nephew. Jennifer is 38 years old. She's an adult and a mother. She's responsible for her own actions. You heartless. This is your fault, I interrupted. Your kindness turned Jennifer into a spoiled person. And now into a criminal. She's being arrested because you taught her she could take whatever she wanted. I hung up. Jennifer was still crying as the officers led her toward the door. The kids were hysterical. Listen to me, I said to Jennifer. You will never enter my life or touch my property without permission again. From now on, Mom and Dad are responsible for you and your kids. The officers took her out. I gave Officer Martinez my parents' phone number so they could come pick up the children. Half an hour later, my parents arrived. My mom ran to the crying kids immediately. My dad just stood there, staring at the mess in my living room. Toys everywhere. Food on the furniture. Crayons on my art book. What did you do? He asked me. I protected my property, according to the law. We're family, Helen. I've heard that word too much in my life, I said. You made Jennifer this way. You spoiled her. You protected her from consequences. You taught her that someone else would always clean up her messes. Well, it ends now. You can pick up the kids. And you can pay for Jennifer's lawyer too. My mother looked at me with pure hatred. You're not our daughter. I felt relief instead of pain. Good, we agree on something. I turned my back on them. They gathered the kids and left quickly, taking them out into the hallway. I stood alone in my destroyed apartment and felt nothing but cold satisfaction. That same day, I called a locksmith and had every lock changed. Then I packed all of Jennifer's things into boxes and sent them by courier to my parents' address. The next morning, Michael from the management company called me. "Helen, I'm so sorry about what happened yesterday. That was completely unprofessional, and it wasn't your fault at all." "Thank you, Michael. I promise I'll find you the perfect tenants. Give me a week, and I'll have someone solid." After the call ended, I sat in my country house and realized how quiet everything was. No phone calls from my parents. No texts from Jennifer asking for money. For years, they'd been constantly reaching out, always needing something, always expecting me to solve their problems. Now there was just silence. It felt good. A few days later, I decided I needed a real break. I booked a flight to Hawaii, a nice resort on Maui. I spent a week doing absolutely nothing. Swimming, reading, sleeping late. No work emails, no family drama, just peace. When I came back to the country house, my phone was still quiet. No missed calls from my parents. No voicemails from Jennifer. It was like they'd finally gotten the message. I settled back into my routine. Working from home, taking walks in the evenings, enjoying the quiet life I'd wanted all along. A week after I got back, Michael called again. "Helen, I found them. The perfect tenants, a couple from Japan. They're both executives at a technology company. Impeccable references, excellent credit. And here's the best part, they're offering to pay 20% more than the market rate, and they want to pay for 2 years in advance." I almost dropped my phone. 2 years in advance? Yes, they're relocating for work and want stability. They loved the apartment. They've already seen it, and they're ready to sign. I'll send you the contracts today. This is exactly what you wanted. 2 days later, everything was signed. The money hit my account. My mortgage was covered for 2 years, I could breathe. 6 months passed, I worked, I lived in my quiet house, I finally felt like my life was my own. No drama, no demands, no family expecting me to fix everything for them. Then my phone rang, it was Aunt Margaret. She lived in Boston. She was my mother's older sister, but she'd always been different from the rest of the family. Smarter. More independent. She'd built her own successful business and never took anyone's nonsense. I'd always respected her. "Aunt Margaret, hi, how are you?" "I'm fine, dear, but I wanted to talk to you about what happened with Jennifer. First, I want you to know that I heard the whole story. Your mother called me, crying, trying to make you sound like a monster. But I know her. I know Jennifer. And I know you did the right thing. Thank you." Jennifer avoided formal criminal charges, Margaret continued. It was her first offense, and she has young children, so the prosecutor decided not to pursue it. But her life hasn't exactly recovered. What do you mean? Word got around. Family members heard what happened. The whole story about her breaking into your apartment, getting arrested in front of her kids. People stopped lending her money. Stopped offering to help. I didn't say anything. Her landlord found out about the arrest, Margaret went on. He refused to renew her lease. Said he didn't want tenants with that kind of history. Where is she living now? She and the kids moved to a small apartment on the outskirts of the city. It's not in a great area. Rundown building, bad schools. Nothing like what she was hoping for. And my parents? They're not helping her as much anymore. They're worried about appearances, about what people think. They can't afford to keep bailing her out financially, and they're embarrassed by what happened. Jennifer's pretty much on her own now. I sat with that information for a moment. Part of me felt bad for my nieces and nephew. They were just kids. They didn't choose any of this. But Jennifer? She'd made her choices. She'd decided to break into my apartment, to take what wasn't hers, to assume she could do whatever she wanted without consequences. Helen, are you still there? I wanted you to know something else, Aunt Margaret said. You don't have to sacrifice your life for a family that doesn't respect you. You worked hard for what you have. You made smart decisions. You don't owe anyone your success just because you're related to them. Thank you for saying that. I mean it. Your mother and Jennifer made their choices, you made yours. You chose to protect yourself and your property. That's not selfish, that's smart. We talked for a few more minutes, catching up on other things. When we hung up, I felt lighter somehow. I looked around my country house. The quiet rooms, the view of trees outside my window, the peace I'd fought so hard to create. I didn't think about my family much anymore. I didn't wonder what they were doing or if they missed me. I'd moved on with my life. The only thing that made me sad was thinking about my nieces and nephew. They were innocent in all this. They'd watched their mother get arrested, lost their nice apartment, had to move to a worse neighborhood. But maybe, I thought, when they grew up, they'd understand. Maybe they'd realize that I wasn't the villain in this story. Maybe they'd want to reach out, to build a relationship with their aunt who'd set boundaries and protected herself. And if they did, I'd be open to it. But for now, I was done. Done with family drama. Done with being used. Done with sacrificing my success for people who didn't appreciate it. 2 years passed since that day in my apartment. 2 years of quiet, productive, drama-free life in my country house. The Japanese couple who rented my apartment were perfect tenants. They paid on time every month, took excellent care of the place, and never caused any problems. Michael would send me updates occasionally, always with good news. The apartment was in great condition, and the tenants wanted to renew their lease when the 2 years were up. My work was going well too. I'd gotten 2 promotions during that time, and my salary had increased significantly. Working from home suited me. I was productive, focused, and happier than I'd been in years. I never heard from my parents again. Not a single call, not one text message. It was like I'd ceased to exist for them. And honestly, I was fine with that. Better than fine. I'd spent so many years feeling obligated to them, feeling guilty for having success while Jennifer struggled. Now I realized that guilt had been manufactured, manipulated into me by people who wanted to use me. I didn't owe them anything. I'd earned what I had. They'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. Sometimes I thought about Jennifer and the kids. I wondered how they were doing in that small apartment on the outskirts. I wondered if the kids were okay, if they had enough to eat, if they were doing well in school. But I didn't reach out. That door was closed now. Jennifer had shown me exactly who she was, someone who felt entitled to take what wasn't hers, someone who thought family meant she could do whatever she wanted without consequences. I'd given her consequences. And apparently, she still hadn't recovered from them. Aunt Margaret called me a few times over those 2 years. She'd update me on family news without me having to ask. My parents had downsized to a smaller house. They couldn't afford the old place anymore, especially without being able to rely on my financial help. Jennifer was still in the same rundown apartment, working 2 part-time jobs to make ends meet. The kids were in public schools that weren't great, but they were getting by. "Do you ever regret it?" Margaret asked me during one call. "Calling the police on her?" I thought about it, really thought about it. "No," I said, "I don't regret it at all. If I hadn't done that, she'd still be walking all over me. My parents would still be enabling her. And I'd still be sacrificing my life and my success to prop up someone who refused to take responsibility for herself." "Good," Margaret said, "that's the right answer." One evening, I was sitting on my porch watching the sunset. The country house had a beautiful view, trees, hills, the sky turning orange and pink. It was peaceful. Quiet. Exactly what I'd wanted when I bought this place. My phone was silent on the table next to me. No demanding calls, no guilt trips. No crisis that required me to drop everything and fix someone else's problems. I thought about how different my life would be if I'd given in that day at my parents' house. If I'd said yes to Jennifer's demand to live in my apartment for free, I'd be struggling with the mortgage payments on this house. I'd probably be stressed, overworked, exhausted. And Jennifer would still be taking advantage of me, asking for more, assuming I'd always be there to solve her problems. Instead, I had this: peace, financial stability, a life I'd built on my own terms. I thought about my nieces and nephews sometimes. They were getting older now. The oldest was 11 by now. Maybe when they were adults, they'd reach out. Maybe they'd want to know their aunt's side of the story. Maybe they'd understand that I wasn't the bad guy, that I'd just been protecting myself from people who wanted to use me. And if they did reach out, I'd be open to it. I'd try to build a relationship with them if they wanted one. But I wouldn't apologize for what I did. I wouldn't pretend that calling the police on their mother was wrong. It wasn't wrong. It was necessary. Jennifer had broken into my home. She'd refused to leave. She'd told me to call the police if I didn't like it. So I did exactly what she told me to do. The consequences of that were hers to live with, not mine. The sun dipped lower on the horizon. I went inside and made dinner. The house was warm and comfortable. Everything in it was mine. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd earned. I didn't regret the path I'd chosen. Not for a second. My family had taught me an important lesson, even if they hadn't meant to. They'd taught me that sometimes the people who demand the most from you are the ones who deserve it the least. They'd taught me that saying no is sometimes the most important thing you can do. They'd taught me that protecting yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. I finished my dinner, cleaned up the kitchen, and settled in to watch a movie. My life was quiet, peaceful, and entirely my own. And that was exactly how I wanted it to be. Some people might think I was cold for cutting off my family. Some might say I should have forgiven them, should have given them another chance. But those people didn't have to live my life. They didn't have to deal with years of manipulation and guilt and constant demands. I did what was right for me. And I'd do it again in a heartbeat. The movie played on the screen. Outside, the night was quiet and still. I was home, really home. And I was finally, truly free.